Welcome, 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 everybody, to another episode of the Built to Exit podcast with me, your humble host. With me, your Jason. With me, your humble host, Jason Sisneros, where we talk about all things business and we talk about all things exit. Our belief system here is that everybody exits. Because we do, right? Everybody exits their business one way or the other, whether that is whether that's unplanned, whether that is dictated by someone else, or what we really focus on here is a custom tailored exit. And so that's what we're going to talk about this week. That's what we talk about every week. But first off, let me tell everybody, welcome back from Thanksgiving. I know a lot of you have been spending time with your family and probably eating a little bit too much, maybe possibly drinking a little bit too much, which is completely and totally okay. But you are back in the swing of things and you're here listening to me on a Saturday morning where we go live every single Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about all things business. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about this concept, and this is something that is talked about a lot, and I don't really jump into much in this podcast, and I don't speak on it very often because it's overplayed in the marketplace. Just this concept, this conversation that we have around, do I have a business or do I own a job? It is a concept that I think it's been given some negative connotations. There's been some incorrect twists on it in some books that are wildly famous out there, and so I have avoided the conversation mainly because it's a concept that look. If I look the whole idea, do you really own a company or are you just an overworked employee? You have to be an overworked employee for a period of time. This is kind of the concept. This is why I haven't delved too deep into it over time, is because for a period of time, as you're building your business, you are an overworked employee. You are the underpaid employee. Sometimes you don't get paid at all because you have to pay your other people, or you have to pay a bill, or you have to keep the business alive. But no matter where you are in your evolution of business, no matter where you are in the building of your asset called a business, no matter where you are, the concept, the idea that everybody exits how matters should be forefront in your brain. The idea that you are building an asset that someone else will own someday should be forefront in your mindset. So the idea that we don't want to have involuntary exits. This is kind of the concept, the idea that most people go out of business. 95% of companies that start up will not be here in 10 years. 50% of them that start up today won't be here a year from now. And so what are the things, the perspectives? That's what we talk about on the show. What are the perspectives that 2 millimeter shift, as Tony Robbins quite often refers to, that 2 millimeter shift that makes all the difference in how you view things, how you do things, how you behave, who are you paying attention to, what are the activities that you're taking on for yourself, so that you can be one of the 5%, so that you can be one of the 5% that puts their business up for sale and actually has a sale. Less than 7% of companies that are put on the market ever sell. Really, really low. That's a very, very low. And then you dig into that number and you see about 50% of those fail after the deal's been closed, after the contract's been signed, after some money has exchanged hands, after the business owner has stepped back from the company and the new owner of the business has taken over. 50% of them fail after that. So the whole idea, why you're watching the show, why we're together, why we spend time together, is so that you can shift those perspectives just a little bit, so that you can be one of those 5%ers, so you can be somebody who actually builds your company on purpose, custom tailored for you to be able to reach your outcomes and your goals and your dreams. So starting with that in mind, I do want to take on this subject this week that, again, I feel is overplayed. I think it's talked about from incorrect angles. I think most of the people having the conversation here have never had employees. And I think that there is a large portion of this that is so confusing that people can make money off of giving people bullshit ideas. Let's just call them that, because that's really what they are. So let's dive into it. Do you really own a company, or are you just an overworked employee? Um, here's a concept that we just sort of trademarked. Most of us in the small and mid-sized business space, right? There's about 33 million of us in the United States. The measurement is 0 employees to 499. And most of those businesses are some sort of a blue collar business, right? And one of the things that you want to that another one of those 2% millimeter shifts is that if you have a blue collar business, you're going to want to have a white collar exit. Okay. And so understanding this piece of the 4 quadrants that we talk about consistently on this show, this quadrant, we have relationship to customer. That's your how you make money, your LTV, the revenue per employee, all of the things that you have in that quadrant. Then you have your financial clarity bucket, and you have your exit plan bucket. And then you have this bucket, which is having a leadership team. Okay. Having a leadership team. So I'm going to dive in just a little bit. I want you to be proud that you built a business. I want you to be proud that you are building a business. No matter what struggle you have, no matter what size you are, no matter where you see yourself in that spectrum of what your exit number is, what your freedom looks like, no matter where you are in that process, I want you to be proud of the journey that you're on. And I don't want you to feel a whole bunch of pressure. And I don't want you to feel a whole bunch of, well, I do want you to feel pressure, good pressure, but I don't want you to feel shame of the size of your business or how many employees you don't have, or you've been at this for 5 years, you still don't have an employee. I don't want you, shame doesn't do any good. What you have to understand is that your average business is doing less than $100,000 a year, and your average revenue per employee for any business that has any employee is about 360,000, right? These are numbers that matter. And it's not the employee that matters. It's having a business that can support and that you've done the work for, and you've done the thinking that you now have an employee so that you can expand on what you're good at. Right? A lot of us get caught up in the trap of doing everything in the business, and about 80% of that, probably even more of that, eventually 100%, but about 80% of that while you're building should be done by someone else. Okay. So I want you to be proud that you built that business. But if sales, operations, cash flow, and all of that really rely on just you got a job. So let's talk about just the idea, the concept of building a machine, and the machine is doing the work for you. You're not the one doing the job. Okay. So you need a team to operate successfully. And if you need to be gone for 4 weeks, how do you find these people? Right? These are some of the things I want to address. Who can you trust with your baby? Right? How should you train them and share the vision and then have them run with it? I want you to think about, just on this series of questions, I want you to think a little bit about a drug dealer, okay? That's running a drug empire, right? And so it's just stick with me here, okay? A drug dealer that's running a drug empire, they're not going to have distribution in the same place that they have manufacturing, in the same place that they're counting the money. And if they are, they're a dumb drug dealer or have a dumb empire. But it's diversified, right? It's diversified. And I want you to think of your business in the same way, because here's a couple of mistakes that people that don't understand this concept of, do I have a business, or or am I an employee? One of the things that they don't understand is they think, oh, I'm going to go get an employee, and they bring somebody in and that person absorbs all their information, knows how to run the business, and they lean really heavily on one singular person to be able to come in and do the business. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I can go take a vacation. I can take a day off. I can take a sick day. And then eventually down the road, what happens is now that person owns all of the information of the business, all of the intellectual property. They have the relationships with the customer, that person. So now what you've done is you basically just handed your business, and you hope you can trust that person to have your best interest in mind. Versus, right? And I'm not saying that there's not trustworthy people, but for the most part, what I've seen in my own life, in other businesses' life, is when you hand over that responsibility to just one singular person, that puts you at a disadvantage. That is what would be called a concentration risk. Everything that we're going to talk about today is going to be the idea, the concept of reducing concentration risk. What does that mean? From somebody who's buying the business, if there's a single point of failure in the business, I'm not buying that business. If there's a single point of failure in that business, if there's 2 or 3, but if there's 20, now it's spread out, right? That you have no concentration of risk in one particular area. Having somebody, just one person who knows how to run the business, has the relationships with the employees, has the IP, has all of the different relationships, and it's not you go, yay, I'm not the single point of failure. Now that person is. Hi, my name is Jason Sisneros, founder and chairman of Built to Exit, a world-class business consulting firm that's helped hundreds of clients and thousands of business owners fix, scale, and successfully master their companies. Let me ask you a question. Are you serious about changing the direction of your business, but you don't have the funds to bring in a high-level consulting team? Well, then keep watching. We created the Built to Exit system specifically for entrepreneurs like you. Whether you're a startup trying to avoid costly mistakes or a seasoned owner stuck in a plateau or a downturn, this do-it-yourself system is your answer. Now, this course isn't easy. It's not a gimmick. It's not sugar-coated motivational feel-good fest if you know me at all. It's a graduate level masterclass built from decades of business ownership, consulting, and real-world results. If you're willing to do the work and follow the blueprint we use with companies that pay us 5 and 6 figures, you will finally have a system that gives you time freedom, financial control, and a clear path to a successful exit. So if you're serious about building a business that works with or without you, go to www.b2xsystem.com right now, because everybody exits. The only question is how. All right, so let's go back to the drug dealer conversation about this idea and think about it from that perspective. How do you diversify that? You diversify it through an org chart, okay? Think of the CEO, president, general manager at the top. That can be you. That could be somebody else. And then you have operations, you have finance, and you have sales. Okay. So you've got 4 little bubbles, and you diversify by, first off, as an owner, getting to understand what is the job of a CEO. When you put that hat on, you're doing no other job of a CEO, a president, or a general manager. You're putting that hat on and you're doing that job, right? You're doing that job. What does that mean? What does the CEO do? What does the president do? What does the person who's leading the organization do on a day-to-day basis? And what's the outcome of that position? Okay. Now you go over to finance. What is the day-to-day? What are the things that, now take off your hat. If you're a single business owner, you take off that hat, you put on the finance hat, and you go over there and you sit down and go, okay, what is the job? What is the output? What is the outcome of this position, right? Your business speaks in numbers, and that's the interpretation bucket. How am I, the things that I put out, the marketing that I did, we went out and did a job. We took 10 hours to get the thing done, took 6 trips. We did this, right? And it translates into, oh, here's the numbers of what I thought was supposed to be a 30% profitability, but it's actually a 10% profitability. What do we have to change to get that number back up to 30%? That is the interpretation bucket. The COO, or the operations bucket, is delivering on the promise that it was made over in marketing and sales and by the business itself, delivering on that in that bucket. So take off the the finance hat, you put on the operations hat. What is the outcome of the job? What is the output of the job? What do I need? What needs to happen here for us to make sure that we're delivering on the promise in such a way that we create raving fans? Okay. Now you take that hat off and you go over into the revenue generation. We call them CRO, chief revenue officers in our organizations. What do I have to do do marketing, which is getting the attention, to sales, which is the conversion of that sale, and then customer service, which is the retention of that business, and then digging in for referrals and all of the other things that go along with it. That is what most of you, as a single business owner, or even if you have a couple of employees, those are the bubbles that you should be focusing on, but not being the CEO while in revenue, and not being the revenue person while you're in finance, and not being the operations person while you're in revenue. You got to learn those hats. And so finding and identifying the right people comes down to this concept and idea that we find ourselves in today, which is the age of AI. Okay. If you think of AI, I love the fact that we have AI for repetitive stuff. There's a lot of benefits that are going to benefit you as a small business owner if you understand this concept that we're talking about. Because the idea is you have to look at every aspect of your business. Who is my target audience? How am I going to fall in love with their outcome? How am I going to build a machine to meet that outcome at a profitable rate better than anybody else in my competition? And then how do I have those be repeatable behaviors so that I can then scale? Okay. Another one of the most misunderstood words in the business world is scale. Does not mean selling more. It's a portion of it, but it does not mean scale more. It's being able to scale and continue to maintain your profitability, predictability, growth, all of those things, while maintaining the promise that your brand is making to the marketplace. Okay. So how do I find and identify the right people? And how do I utilize, and which one should I be using AI, or should I be hiring a person, or should I be having a combination of those two? These are the businesses that figure out how to utilize AI or any technological tool, by the way, and also match that up with the right person. That's who's going to win. So let's talk a little bit about AI for just a second. It is an information retrieval machine, and it is the best results that you're ever going to get out of it is by asking it the right question, right? It just always comes back to human nature. The quality of our life and our business is dependent on the quality of the questions that we're able to ask, not the answers that we're able to come up with, but the questions that we're able to ask. So if you're directing AI, it's basically out there, it's potential that is going to be unlocked by your capacity for critical thinking and question asking. If you ask it a dumb question, you're going to get a dumb return. Just like on the human side of it, if you're asking a dumb question, or you're not doing the thinking behind hiring that human, or knowing what that job is, or what's the output, and what do I expect, and how do I reward it, and all those kind of things, if you're not doing that, you're going to end up with employees that frustrate you. You're going to be one of those business owners that's out there. If I hear somebody complaining about it's hard to find good people, one, B, it's hard to keep good people, two, three, it's the people that I have working for me are not doing a great job. These are signs of a business that is in decline, right? These are signs of a business that is eventually not going to get it, because we are putting the focus and the blame on the person who we bring in, and we say, hey, I want you to go do bookkeeping. You don't know what you're asking them to do. So they are like, okay, I'm going to do bookkeeping like I was taught to do bookkeeping. And yes, it might be a slight improvement, but it's not what you're looking for, because you don't understand it, right? You haven't done the thinking. You haven't done the deep intellectual curiosity piece of saying, in finance, why do I need it? What do I need it to tell me so that I can get the customer in the first place, keep that customer, radically delight that customer and have that customer either spend more money with us or at least give us a referral, right? Or what product do I need to add to keep that customer? These are the questions that I beg people every single week after week, to ask better questions. There's no like magic bean out there that you're going to plant because you bought some book or you bought some program or you went to some event. It is your thinking capacity and hyper focusing in on the outcome of your client. So finding the right person means, all right, now I'm going to set those 4 bubbles that Jason talked about. I've got CEO. I'm going to put myself in that role and say, what are the things that are important in that? There's lots of books. There's lots of research. We build this stuff out with our team every day, all day for the last 15 years. We've been doing this. And then you go to the finance piece and you go, okay, what's the outcome? You go to the operations, what's the outcome? You go to the revenue generation, what's the outcome? And now what you can do is you can say, these are the 4 things, right? If I'm a revenue person, how many qualified leads did we get? How many of those did we have conversations with? How many of those led to proposals and how many of those closed? Okay. There's your numbers, right? There's your numbers. So now you know when you bring somebody in or you put on your own hat, how many qualified leads did we get? You can count this at the end of the day. Each one of those is an indicator of an outcome for your business, right? Each one of those is an indicator for the success of your business, for the predictable, when you're going to sell your business, the predictable expectation of uninterrupted revenue. That's what people are buying. People are buying, if they're going to buy your business, they're going to buy the certainty that comes along with you doing this work and building these assets in your business. Same thing with a piece of AI. Okay. You go in and you got to ask it the right questions. You have to get it to do the right things. But if you don't know what those right things are, how are you going to ask the right question? This is part of the idea. So, finding an idea, identifying the right people. So here's some questions, right? What should I still be responsible for as the owner, and what should I delegate? Here's some questions that will be super helpful for you as you're building your business. How do I find people who think like owners, not employees? How do I interview for leadership, not just skills? Should I promote internally or should I hire externally? What qualities matter in a number 2 leader or GM? These are all very, very helpful questions for you to be able to ask. That quality that I'll just jump into one of them, the qualities that matter most in a number 2 leader. That person, you want to make sure that person is not entrepreneurially ambitious. Okay. You want to have somebody that loves the job that they do, wants to keep that job, and is looking for certainty in their life. You don't want another person who is out there to build a business and has a ton of ambition, because all they're going to do is come in. You're going to train your competition. You want to find somebody who has a job, wants a job, is looking for certainty, is looking for that predictability, and that will stay with the company. And they've demonstrated that by their past behaviors. They stayed where they were for a period of time. They were loyal. People trust them. And you can do your due diligence, not just hire a guy right at the end of your arms. I'm just going to go hire somebody. You do your due diligence on the person that is coming in. So that number 2 that you want to start training in your business, they need to be certainty minded. They need to be professional. They need to be smart. They need to be good at what they're doing. And you find these things out in conversation by asking the right questions and looking at their past behavior before you bring them onto your team. Now, you may have a strong number 2 already on your team that's just kind of begging, waiting for you to say, I'm going to stop being the control freak and I'm going to pass this over. All right. Now, number 2, transferring judgment and leadership. Here's a couple of questions that'll work for you. How do I teach my instincts and decision-making while trusting their knowledge and judgment? Number 2, how do I build systems that don't rely on my personality? These are good questions for you to start the process of transferring judgment, transferring leadership. Also, building the third part of this is systems and process creation. How do I transfer what's in my head into a system somebody else can follow? There's a great phrase, a great term, SOPs. Okay. SOPs, standard operating procedures. It's a lot of people make this way more confusing than it should be. An SOP is just you writing down what you do to get a specific outcome. If you've had a business for longer than a day, you're starting to realize that there's patterns, that there are things that you do that get the job done. And what I mean by the job is bringing in a lead, having a sales call with that lead, turning them into a raving fan, customer service, collecting the money. What do you do with the money? How do you pay your bills? These things, there starts to be patterns. And in your business, you figure out, do I need a person to do that? Or do I need AI to do that? And is it something I need two people, a person and AI, to be able to do? Are you a business owner running hard, burning out, and still not getting ahead? I'm Jason Sisneros, founder of Built to Exit. I've bought, built, fixed, exited over 24 companies of my own. I've helped hundreds of business owners do the same. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably didn't start your business to be trapped in it. And yet, here you are, overwhelmed, underpaid, drowning in noise from fake gurus and recycled advice. Been there. Built to Exit isn't just another course. It's not a magic bullet, it's a system, a proven blueprint built from real-world experience, not theory. We help owners control the three things that really matter in business: price, the timing, and the terms of your exit. Whether that means more cash in your pocket now, more freedom starting today, or a full-blown exit strategy that lets you walk away on your own terms, our team knows how to get you there. So if you're done guessing, done with the excuses, and ready to win, visit builttoexit.biz today to schedule your free 15-minute strategy call with a senior advisor. We'll show you exactly where the leaks are in your business and how to fix them, because everybody exits. How you exit is the only thing that really matters. Builttoexit.biz. We play to win. Do you? But you'll never get to that step until you start to SOP. Just look it up, right? Just look it up. There's lots of training. There's lots of free training on YouTube about how to build an SOP. We have an entire team of people that specialize on our team how to build quickly SOPs in businesses that we're helping prep up for sale, because it's necessary, right? It's the repetitive thing. If somebody's going to buy your business, if you're going to buy a business, you're looking for certainty. You're looking for the predictability of that business. And the best way for you to do that is to build SOPs. If there's an activity in your business that you've determined what that outcome is, then you just write that down and then figure out where it is interconnected from start to finish. From the time a lead comes in to the time they give you a referral or do more business with you should be mapped out in a flow chart somewhere. Okay. So those are three things: finding and identifying the right people. You've got to build a team, right? The whole idea behind this concept is that somebody who's going to buy your business, if you want to sell it, or for you to get your freedom of time back, somebody else is going to have to be running your business. A buyer of a business they may buy your business, especially if they've just come out of a weekend seminar on how to buy businesses and whatnot, but it's not going to be for the money you want. And very rarely will you ever get paid what you agreed on the closing day of your business. That's a couple of things. And then thirdly, I think, which is the most important piece, is that when you sell your business, you want to optimize the sale. You want to optimize how much money you're going to get for how much time, effort, energy, relational damage, physical damage, health damage that you've done to yourself. You want to get the most that you possibly can for all of that time, energy, effort that you put in, all of that blood, all those tears, everything that you put in. You want to optimize that. The second thing is that in order to do that, what's going to happen is you're going to have a profitable business that is optimized while you still own it, which means you're going to be able to take more free cash flow off the table. You're going to be able to have more time for yourself. The same thing that you need to build and optimize your business for a proper exit is the same exact things that you need to do to be able to optimize the free cash flow that you're pulling off the table while you own that product. Okay. So finding and identifying the right people, transferring judgment and leadership, systems and process creation. Those are the three things that I want you to focus on going into the next week. Okay. Freedom and a premium exit. A white collar exit from a blue collar business can only happen once a leadership team who's not you owns sales, operations, finances, and the culture. If every decision still runs through you, your first job is to build people who can make decisions without you. Okay. What's your takeaway? Every week we talk about what you should do after listening and interacting with me, or watching this, later on in the week, whenever you get around to watching this, is what are you going to do between now and the next show? Here's what I want to challenge you to do this week is take the 10, just list out as you're making a decision or as you're doing something in your business, pick the top 10 things that you're doing and turn them into a SOP light, right? Here's what they are. Here's what you do. Here's the repetitive actions. And then out to the side of it, put who the ideal person would be to do that. Now, if you have employees, somebody on your team, if you don't have employees, make sure you're changing the hat. Maybe that becomes, now you'll get 10 of those things and you'll be like, oh my gosh, if number 7, if I could hire somebody to do number 7, that would free up another 7 to 10 hours of my time every week for me to be able to go make more sales, which would then lead to number 5 being able to be hired for, because then I'll have that much more money. I'll have that much more profit. I'll have those things. They start to link together. But the first thing that you have to do is take the responsibility for yourself this week to list out and capture the 10 most important things that you're doing, turn them into a mini SOP job description, and then put who would be the ideal person to be able to do that. If they're in your business, great. If there's somebody that you need to hire, great. And then you'll start to see what priority for you to have somebody in your business will look like. Just want to remind you what I said in the beginning of this. The average business of the 33 million businesses that are small and mid-size are making about $100,000 a year. The businesses that have an employee are making on average of $360,000 per employee. That should convince you that that's the right way to go. Build a business that needs employees. Build a business that will utilize, optimize, and expand on that, having an employee and AI that's attached to it. Okay. So you don't get freedom and a premium exit from having a busy business, right? We talked about taking the word busy out of your mouth last week. But you don't get a premium exit by owning everything in the business. You don't by owning, I mean doing everything. You don't build a premium exit by having a stellar personality that's the only reason anybody ever does anything for or any business with you. You don't have it because you don't have a premium exit if you're the smartest person on your team. You don't have a premium exit if you don't have your financials in order according to generally accepted principles, right? Generally accepted accounting principles. You don't have a premium exit if your culture is not built on purpose and repeatable without you in the room. You don't get it, right? You get it when your leadership team owns and scales operations, sales, finance, and culture without you. At that point, okay, you're no longer the asset. The business is. And this is the whole point of built to exit. You want to build an asset. You want to build a business that can be acquired by somebody else, and it continues to crank out predictable revenue, cash flow for that new owner. Okay. So as you go into this week, make that your challenge. 10 things that I'm doing Who could do it? Here's my SOP. Here's the job description. Who should be doing this? Either on my team or my next hire, the person that I'm going to bring in. And what is that going to do for the business? Think about that bubble that I talked about, having a CEO, president, GM who's not entrepreneurial, ambitious, and I should have just stopped when I was ahead. And then who's going to do your finances? Who's going to do your operations? And who's going to do your revenue? And that's your team. Now you can sell it, right? Now you're a good drug dealer, as they say, right? You have diversified the risk for somebody who's going to come in and buy your business. We'll talk about how to do that with, you don't want to have concentration risk around your customers either. You want to have a wide berth, a lot of them showing that there's a lot of people that want to buy your business, but that's another conversation for another day. So we'll wrap it up. I want you to start building towards that moment when you can step away from your business and it gets better without you being there. That's it. Drive towards that. Figure out how to ask better questions, how to utilize AI, utilize your employees, have employees that are now utilizing and working with AI. These are the things that are going to keep you strong. These are the things that are going to help you exit. And in your exit is where everything that your end game, what do you want to do with your life? Start another business, start a charity. You want to sail the 7 seas and go experience some of this wide world that you're boxed into because your business owns you. That's what you're doing this for, is to create that freedom of choice for you and your family. I never want you to forget that, right? I want you to always remember that you're building an asset that from the day you started it, from the day you conceived it in your mind, whether you could articulate it back then or not, is being built for you to create freedom of choice for you and your family. Okay. So that's it for this week. I really appreciate all of you being here on a Saturday, especially I know a lot of us are dragging around turkey belly, and you've spent a lot of time with maybe some challenging people in your family. You've had good conversations. You've had, drama, whatever was going on with you. You're here. You've watched this. I appreciate you. And I want to tell you that as I sat around the table for my Thanksgiving with my family, one of the things that I was wildly grateful for is for you. For you, for this opportunity that we have, for us to change our stars, for me to look around the table at my family and to know and understand how all of their lives are different because I stood up, because I learned the lessons, because I did the hard work, because I beat back my own demons to become of service in this world, that there was a tool called owning my own business that challenged the very core of who I was, to craft the best parts of me to come out instead of the worst parts of me, to not be a victim, to be a victor in this life, to have a tool handed to me that I didn't earn, called entrepreneurship, called owning my own business. I was so grateful to sit around that table and to think about the journey that I've been on for 30 years in owning my own businesses, and the failures, the bankruptcies, the successes, and then the losing all of it, and then the building it back, and the miles that I put on in the air, going and speaking at events and getting to meet people, and being able to put, after I was able to build my own freedom, to be able to put my hands on other people's businesses and assets to be able to get them free as well. Man, don't ever forget how amazing this opportunity is. And unless we fight for it, unless we keep it alive by being successful, this is it. This show is for you to be more successful. Whether you ever do business with Built to Exit or me, or ever come to anything, you building a successful business that frees you keeps me free. It keeps my children free. It keeps our grandkids free. It keeps this country free, because finance is the final death blow to empires. And we always got to fight for it. We always got to be grateful for it. I'm so happy that you're building a business. I'm so proud of you, no matter where you are. If you're just a single business owner and you're doing less than 100,000, you're sustaining, you're doing something that is so rare. Less than 10% of this world ever puts on the entrepreneurial hat. And yet we're responsible in this country for 70% of the GDP. That's over $17 trillion because of you, because of dreamers just like you, because of diversified finance through owning your own business. We do 60% of the hiring. We have 90% of the jobs. You're so crucial. You're so needed. And I just want to help every week, week after week, to help you to get better. One small incremental change per week means that you incrementally improved your business 52 times, right? Just one a week, small improvements. And that's all this show is. One of those things. You could pick this to improve your business and to improve your status, your ability and your future, 1 week at a time, through this show with me, my team that puts a lot of energy and effort into planning these shows, making sure that we're talking about subjects that matter to you. Please share this out to other business owners. Somebody out there, somebody that needed to watch this show. And I hope you come back next week, and I hope you share this out. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so excited and pumped up for 2026. I'll be announcing a yearly planning show here in the next few days, hopefully, but maybe it'll take us a week to get it together. But I want to do I used to do this back in the day, and I'm going to do it again, where we just sit down and I do a show about nothing but planning for the next year, which in this case is going to be 2026. I love you all very much, and I hope you have an amazing week. I hope that you spend time with your family, with your loved ones, and improving your business and your asset, because everybody exits how matters. God bless. See you next week.